reality, in a timely manner, is that we're previous to the pandemic. How does Japan hereby establish travel?
Chinese Foreign Minister's official visit to Japan. Foreign Ministry spokesperson aims to facilitate essential travel between the two sides, including for business purposes.
This is a positive step taken by the two countries to promote bilateral personnel exchange and support the resumption of work and production in the context of routinized epidemic prevention and control.
And the corridor is to be launched on Monday. Coming up, the 12th China Overseas Investment Fair in Beijing.
History is made up of stories. Put down that lengthy book spanning thousands of years and instead follow the Makers and Shakers of Chinese History podcast, which presents the biographies of 20 historic figures who shaped the course of ancient China. Meet the most renowned ancient Chinese rulers, ministers, thinkers, scientists, poets and rebels, and find out how they continue to influence the Chinese to this day. Subscribe to Makers and Shakers of Chinese History for free on your favorite podcast app, coming this November.
It's 8 minutes past the hour. The 12th China Overseas Investment Fair has been held in Beijing. The event attracted more than 800 participants from over 85 countries and regions. The China Overseas Investment Fair was founded back in 2009 to facilitate overseas investment by Chinese companies. Stats show that from 2013 to 2019, China's investment in countries along the Belt and Road route surpassed $117 billion US. By the end of last year, China's direct outbound investment had reached $2.2 trillion US, ranking first in the world. With more on this, Sui spoke to Zhou Feng, who covered the event in Beijing.
The annual China Overseas Investment Fair was scheduled for September this year, but was postponed due to the Covid-19 pandemic. So tell us something about this year's fair.
This year, of course, due to the Covid-19 pandemic, the fair was shortened to one day, featuring a major forum, 7 thematic forums on topics including China-Europe Investment Cooperation and the development of Shanghai Cooperation Organization Demonstration Zone. All participants, including those from overseas, have to show their green health code on the Beijing health kit before entering the venue, and wearing masks is also mandatory throughout the fair.
So, like you said, it's a fair with several forums with VIP guests and very important topics. Tell us what you saw on the ground at the fair.
Deputy Secretary General of the National Development and Reform Commission, Gao Gao, delivered a keynote report at the opening ceremony. He stressed the importance of continuing joint efforts for all countries to fight the pandemic while resuscitating the economy. The Secretary General hailed the reliability and convenience of China-Europe freight train. He said the thousands of trips made so far this year have secured the international industrial chain and supply chain. Also, Secretary General of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Vladimir Norov, made a keynote speech. He praised China's great contributions to the stable development of the world during the pandemic. Norov also highlighted the SCO's 5-year development plan to help member countries achieve post-pandemic economic recovery. There's also one keynote speaker from China's e-commerce giant, JD.com. She mainly talked about how the company integrated its businesses and logistics and expanded its operations overseas while also adopting high technology.
So the event was attended by international guests. What are some of the key consensus reached at the fair?
Well, there are several key consensuses. First, COVID-19 prevention and treatment still remains a task requiring joint effort. All countries should step up efforts to enhance cooperation in producing safe vaccines, boosting production capacity, and making vaccines a global public good. Second, major initiatives such as the Belt and Road Initiative, the recently signed RCEP agreement have been mentioned by the participants multiple times, showing that they are supporting this increasing globalization and multilateralism, as well as the wish to conduct further exchanges and promote trade and investment. Third, digitization, digital cooperation, and digital transformation are also frequently mentioned by the guests and the participants.
That was reporter Zhou Feng talking about this year's China Overseas Investment Fair. The Lord Mayor of the City of London says Chinese companies in the UK continue to play an important role in helping the local economy to recover from COVID-19. William Russell made the remarks at a virtual trade forum hosted by the China Chamber of Commerce in the UK. He says those companies have enabled thousands of new job opportunities for people across the country. The Lord Mayor adds that the City of London remains committed to supporting the Chinese business community in the world's leading financial center. Chinese ambassador to Britain, Liu Xiaoming, says UK businesses and investment are welcome in China. He says China will provide more cooperation opportunities and development space for businesses of all countries, including Britain. The diplomat also says that he hopes that the UK will continue to foster an open, fair, and non-discriminatory environment for Chinese businesses in the country. Chinese companies are doubling down on cutting-edge technologies for electric vehicles and autonomous driving, which they believe will fuel the future growth of the auto industry. Guoyan reports.
China's largest private car maker, Geely, has invested heavily in electric and smart vehicles. The company's president, An Conghui, says that more resources will be directed into tech products.
We've invested more than 100 billion yuan in the past 10 years into research and development of various aspects, especially in areas of intelligent drive, electrification, and intelligent networks. We've continued to invest in technologies around the transformation of future automobiles.
Autonomous and assistive driving has been the focal point of development among the world's car makers. An increasing number of automakers and tech companies have joined the race to develop self-driving technologies after the world's largest auto market released an ambitious plan for autonomous driving. Beijing is building the world's first pilot area for cloud-controlled, high-level automated driving. Many Chinese companies have been working to come up with smart driving solutions. Zhang Lin is from Free Tech Intelligence Systems, which develops assistive driving technologies.
We as a company bringing the autonomous driving systems that currently equip in many vehicles. Currently it's a level 2. We also have another vehicle that system that it's a level 4. I think L4 have certain commercial values in low-speed applications, but most applications, I would say, in the next 10 years, will still remain in the, we call ADAS, playing a supporting role. But even at a supporting role, they still can make driver safer and make the vehicle more easy to operate.
Construction of urban infrastructure is also accelerating in designated areas in several cities to test the future transportation model. Wu Yong is in charge of a test program in a demonstration area for autonomous driving in Zhongguancun, which is known as the Silicon Valley of Beijing. He said they've been working on an intelligent traffic system powered by 5G to ensure the safety of the public.
We designed a scenario to simulate pedestrians walking across roads. The test cars can effectively avoid the crowds.
China's top economic regulator has released an agenda to mass-produce vehicles with conditional self-driving capabilities by 2025. For the Beijing Hour, this is Guoyan.
Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam's delivered a policy address and reiterated the importance of the one country, two systems principle and how the administrative region will help to safeguard national security.
The national security law has been remarkably effective in restoring stability in Hong Kong. Advocacies of Hong Kong independence and collusions with external forces have progressively subsided. Some of the prominent figures have kept a low profile. Radical organizations have ceased operation or dissolved. Those who are suspected of violating the law have absconded, and street violence is significantly on the decline.
The chief executive also highlighted Hong Kong's plan to promote the development of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area. Lam listed several measures such as facilitating private Hong Kong cars traveling to Guangdong on the mainland via the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge and expediting the implementation of a cross-boundary wealth management connect scheme. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up, millions of Americans are traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday despite the pandemic. The Beijing Hour.
The Beijing Hour. The Beijing Hour brings you an hour of comprehensive news and information from both China and the rest of the world. A mix of news, sports, and entertainment. In-depth analysis of the day's big stories, as well as the most comprehensive business of the day. The Beijing Hour. Beijing Hour. Your very own window to China and the rest of the world.
16 minutes past the hour. Global coronavirus cases have now surpassed 60 million, with over 1.4 million deaths. According to data from Johns Hopkins University, the United States is leading with more than 12 million cases, followed by India with more than 9 million. Meantime, more than 88,000 COVID-19 patients have now been admitted to hospitals across the United States as cases continue to soar. According to the COVID Tracking Project, the figure sets a new all-time high for the 15th consecutive day. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention also reported more than 165,000 new daily cases on Tuesday. Daily cases have now topped 100,000 for 17 straight days in the United States. Millions of Americans are defying warnings not to travel for the Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday as the U.S. breaks records for rates of coronavirus hospitalizations. Even though the government's urging people to abandon their traditional large celebrations amid fears that they will spread COVID-19 from coast to coast, at least 50 million people are expected to travel. Washington correspondent Kate Fisher reports from Reagan National Airport in the U.S. capital.
As planes take off carrying Americans to visit their families across the country, so COVID-19 infection rates are also soaring. With nationwide hospitalizations topping 85,000 and case counts on the cusp of 200,000 a day, health officials are urging people not to travel. The country's leading epidemiologist, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says he understands that many Americans are experiencing COVID fatigue after months of pandemic restrictions. But he says ignoring public health guidelines will only make things worse.
I think every family unit needs to do a risk assessment. You may want to make a decision that you're just going to forestall it. Now, whenever I say that, I'm the Grinch that stole Thanksgiving. I'm not saying that. I'm saying everyone needs to seriously think about the risk-benefit. And you might say, we had a wonderful Thanksgiving last year. I'm looking forward to a wonderful Thanksgiving next year. But maybe right now is not the time to have 25 people in a house when you take your mask off as you're eating.
But millions are defying this advice. One of them is Anastasia Smith.
We just felt like, okay, well, it doesn't seem like it's getting any better, so, I mean, we might as well just try to just have a little bit of fun without getting sick.
The American Automobile Association projects that some 50 million people will take to the roads and the skies to travel for Thanksgiving. Roger Dow, president and CEO of the U.S. Travel Association, says that if people are going to defy the advice, then it's imperative that they take all precautions.
We're sure that many people will heed the CDC's latest advisory, but we're equally sure that many will still choose to travel and why this guidance is so critical. The challenge we have is Americans do make up their own decisions, and with 50 million people saying they're going to travel, our point is to really get into people's minds how they must travel safely.
Passengers here at Washington National Airport appear to be taking that advice, at least. All of them are wearing masks. But this, of course, is only one part of their trip. The CDC is also concerned about what's going to happen once they reach their destination and the kind of often indoor, often large gatherings that they'll be taking part in. The kind of gatherings where this highly contagious virus is likely to spread. The worry for health experts is that these people may enjoy Thanksgiving, but they and their families could find it hard to celebrate come Christmas. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Kate Fisher in Washington.
The coronavirus pandemic has wreaked havoc on Europe's tourism industry after months of border closures and national lockdowns. The EU tourism sector is predicted to be losing around $1.2 billion per month as a result of COVID-19. Our correspondent Lucy Hoff reports from Brussels.
Since the spring, Europe has been hit by two severe waves of COVID-19, which have had a devastating impact on its lucrative tourism sector. The situation in popular destinations like Italy, Spain, Greece and Portugal has been particularly grave. France and Spain have reported a near 99% decrease in bookings on websites like Airbnb and Expedia compared to the same period in 2019. The bloc has seen an unprecedented drop in international and European travellers. Derek Jones is CEO of Cooni Travel Agency.
The second wave has had a fairly devastating effect on countries that were only just beginning to form some sort of recovery after the first wave. And I think the second blow has been harder than the first. So countries where in many cases are wholly reliant on tourism, certainly particular regions of European countries that are very much reliant on tourism, have been devastated by the lack of revenues throughout the summer months. And even now as we go into winter, where the ski season would normally be beginning to get underway as we go into December, you've then got many alpine regions that again are going to suffer probably a whole season without any significant revenue. So the impact has been quite severe.
The World Travel and Tourism Council predicts 6.4 million job losses this year as the tourism sector loses over $1 billion each month. Analysts agree the way to kickstart the industry is to restore consumer confidence, involving better coordination on quarantine rules and rapid testing in Europe. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, said the use of rapid antigen tests could restore safe cross-border travel.
Rapid testing, with results delivered very quickly, is crucial in this setting. For example, rapid tests can also allow us to travel in a safe condition. People can be tested at airports before boarding a flight. So we need a large number of rapid antigen tests right now, and therefore the European Commission is making available €100 million from our emergency support instrument. With this money, we can buy between 15 and 22 million rapid antigen tests for the European Union.
Many European airlines like Air Italia and Lufthansa have testing schemes in place at airports in order to reduce quarantine rules on arrival. But pending a vaccine and with much of Europe back under lockdown, there is a long way to go. The UK has announced its plans to cut its quarantine rules from 14 days to 5 after being tested. But aviation expert Alex Macheras says the move has come too late to help reboot the region's tourism industry in the short term.
It's very late, and if anything, if we were to believe that this will somehow help the aviation sector recover by having a decent December, unfortunately that sentiment would be nothing short of delusional, and that is because the do-nothing approach that the UK has pursued for aviation has eroded at this sector like no other sector in Europe. The IATA data shows that the UK's aviation sector is suffering the worst of all of Europe already. And ultimately, what has been brought in today, while of course overdue, is actually probably only going to appeal to a smaller demographic.
With positive vaccine news now offering hope for 2021, travel is forecast to pick up from the summer. But surveys suggest Europeans still plan to holiday closer to home, with 60% preferring to stay on the continent. It will be some time yet before Europe sees a return to busy and lucrative international travel and marks another difficult period to come for its aviation industry. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Lucy Hoff in Brussels.
UK Chancellor Rishi Sunak has warned that the country is in an economic emergency caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The UK is expected to see its economy shrink by 11.3% this year, the biggest decline in 300 years. Public borrowing is set to reach $374 billion, equivalent to 19% of Britain's GDP. Sunak outlined his spending plans amid the ongoing pandemic.
Our health emergency is not yet over, and our economic emergency has only just begun. So our immediate priority is to protect people's lives and livelihoods.
Sunak says the public service will receive a further £55 billion, or $73 billion to continue the battle against the virus. He says the fiscal damage of the virus is likely to be long-lasting, and economic output is not expected to return to pre-crisis levels until the fourth quarter of 2022.
Long-term scarring means in 2025, the economy will be around 3% smaller than expected in the March budget.
The Chancellor also announced that over 1 million doctors, nurses, and people working in the NHS will get a pay raise, along with public services workers on lower incomes. However, he confirmed that the raises will be paused for the rest of the public sector until next year. Meantime, the UK's COVID deaths rose by 608 on Tuesday, the biggest single-day increase since May. A top European Commission official says citizens in the 27-nation bloc could begin to receive vaccinations against the coronavirus next month. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen told member states to start making preparations to roll out the vaccination program.
The first European citizens might already be vaccinated before the end of December. And there's finally light at the end of the tunnel. And yes, as I've said, vaccines are important. But what counts is vaccinations. Member states must get ready now.
She identified cold chains, vaccination centers, and trained personnel as among the things that countries need to prepare. And while preparing for vaccinations, von der Leyen urged citizens to continue to follow restrictions. She warned that hospitals remain under stress as the virus continues to spread rapidly, with an average of 3,000 COVID-19 deaths a day.
We must learn from the summer and not repeat the same mistakes. Relaxing too fast and too much is a risk for third wave after Christmas. Weeks ago, I've said that this Christmas will be different. And yes, it will be quieter.
The European Commission signed agreements with 6 potential vaccine suppliers, with the 7th contract still pending. The deals allow it to purchase over 800 million doses for the bloc, which has a population of 460 million people. 28 minutes past the hour. Beijing today getting cloudy skies and 4 degrees Celsius, a low of -4 this evening. Chongqing's overcast and 13 and down to 11. Last is cloudy and 14 with a low of -4. Hong Kong's cloudy and 27. The low is 21. It's time for a short break so far this hour. The Chinese president congratulated Joe Biden on winning the U.S. presidential election. China and Japan are establishing a travel corridor for essential personnel as part of the fight against COVID-19. And we took a look at the 12th China Overseas Investment Fair in Beijing. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.